Here we go. Great. Here we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Leslie Wegener. I live in Stoddard, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area. We want to thank you for tuning in tonight for this forum. We want to thank the West Salem School Superintendent's Office and PTO for helping us get the word out about this forum. And we especially want to thank the candidates in the West Salem School Board race for accepting our invitation to participate. For those of you unfamiliar with the League of Women Voters, we are a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government. We also work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. As a nonpartisan organization, we do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. All across Wisconsin, school board candidates are on the ballot in next Tuesday's nonpartisan spring election. Our goal in hosting tonight's forum is to encourage voter interest and participation in the April 2nd election and give West Salem School District voters the opportunity to meet each school board candidate and learn about their views on education issues in your district. The League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area adheres to candidate forum guidelines issued by our state league, which emphasize consistent and specific criteria that uphold our commitment to fairness and impartiality. So here's a brief overview of the format for tonight's program. The forum will run approximately 60 minutes. Each candidate will have 2 minutes at the beginning and closing of the forum for comments of their choice. Each candidate will be responding to questions received in advance by email. And that was up until about 15 minutes ago to the La Crosse Area League's email box. We're going to switch over now to questions submitted now live from the YouTube audience, as well as more general questions prepared by League as time allows. Our moderator has the option of rephrasing questions for clarity or combining questions that are similar. Questions will be presented by our moderator in rotation, with each candidate given the opportunity to respond. Responses are timed so they don't exceed 1 minute, which allows us to cover as many questions as possible before our time runs out. Tonight's forum is being live streamed on the La Crosse Area League of Women Voters YouTube page and is also being recorded. Recording links will be posted later on our website. Look for the League's address on our closing slide. So now I'd like to introduce the League members on hand for tonight's forum. Catherine Kolkmeyer is the moderator posing the questions and guiding the proceedings. Mary Nugent is serving as our timekeeper and Zoom host behind the scenes. I will be watching for and collecting your online questions after we get started. It's also my pleasure to introduce our 3 school board candidates this evening, Bob Gollnik, Matt Knebes, and Caitlin Wilson. So now we'll turn things over to Catherine and get this forum underway.
Thank you very much, Leslie. And thank you to all of our candidates for participating tonight. As we mentioned, the candidate forum tonight will have 3 parts, starting with opening statements and then a 45-minute Q&A with our candidates and then closing statements. And afterwards, we will share some general information about the upcoming election. So we'll begin with our opening statements. Prior to the forum, we randomly selected the speaking order. And so our first speaker will be Mr. Gollnik, followed by Mr. Knebes and Ms. Wilson. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell us more about their candidacy for the school board. And I'll ask our candidates, as we said before, to keep an eye on our time clock. It'll warn you when you have 15 seconds left, and it'll turn red when your time has ended. Mr. Gollnik, would you like to begin with your opening statement?
Yes, thanks. So I'll start with thanking the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area, Catherine, Leslie, and Mary for organizing this and providing a great resource for voters, and thank you to the attendees for showing up as well. My name is Bob Gollnik, as was mentioned. I grew up in the area and moved away for about 15 years after undergrad at UWL, and returned to West Salem, and I've been living there since 2017. I have 2 students in the district, and my motivation for running for one of the vacant school board spots is just to kind of add another pragmatic and thoughtful and data-driven presence where possible in some of the decision making. I know that the district has a great reputation in the area, and my interest is in expanding that reputation and thinking about ways that we can continue to collaborate with the community. My background's in urban planning and transportation planning and policy, and so I'm very community oriented, and I'm interested in ways that we can continue to have a great resource in the community.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes.
I would also like to thank you guys for putting this on. It's beneficial for people to actually be able to meet us or ask questions that they have concerns. My name is Matt Knebes. I grew up in West Salem, graduated from West Salem. I'm in the construction industry. I work for Matthew Construction. I've been doing that for 23 years. My goal for the school district is to continue on the path that they're on. I think they do a great job. It would be just to make sure that our children are safe and healthy and can continue in education. Me and my wife, we have 3 kids that also go to school there. So it's strictly to do our part to make sure that the school district has what they need.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. I'll echo the thanks to the La Crosse Area League of Women Voters, Catherine, Leslie, and Mary, to our engaged West Salem voter base for requesting this forum, and for those of you attending tonight and listening. My name is Caitlin Wilson, and my husband Eric and I have been living in the town of Hamilton within the the West Salem School District for since 2015. And I want to serve on the West Salem Board of Education so I can give back to the community that has given so much to us. We have 2 elementary age children in the district, and our family have been beneficiaries of the generosity of the community since we've started. So just for the past few years. But I deeply believe our schools are the heart of our community. And so serving forward, serving locally, I can't think of many better causes to do that than West Salem schools. I agree with both Matt and Bob. We are on a very positive trajectory as a school district. So to contribute my skills and talents, centering particularly in the corporate communication field, I work in a local credit union, so corporate communications and finance, the skills that I can offer to the Board of Education position, I believe I'm an asset for one of the openings.
Wonderful. Thank you. So for tonight's Q&A, each of our candidates will have a chance to answer each of the questions, and we'll rotate the order of who answers first. So I'll call on everyone as we go along. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer each of the questions, and the Q&A is going to last for 45 minutes. We'll cover as many of the questions as we can, from ones that have been sent in by the audience and also some that have been prepared by the League. So for our first question, what is your background that leads you to believe that you would be an effective school board member? And what particular experiences or skills have prepared you to serve as a board member? We're going to begin with Mr. Knebes.
I would say the biggest thing that has prepared me to do this would be the communication aspect of it. Through my experience with the construction field, I have had many different opportunities to work with individuals and be able to come up to a common solution for a problem. I will be able to help. I'll be able to listen, and hopefully we can navigate through things with the great team that they have already in place.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
Yeah, a few different things. As I mentioned, I've been working in policy and planning for over 20 years. So I'm familiar with the policy making and the process from inception to implementation. I'm familiar with building consensus and listening to and honoring different viewpoints and kind of working through difficult decisions. And part of that is how to allocate limited resources and prioritize priorities, I guess. So I think those are a couple of things. And also I've kind of had a wide background and a breadth of experiences. So I'm familiar with working with a lot of different experience levels and backgrounds.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
First and foremost, I come from a big family of teachers and coaches. My dad taught in the La Crosse School District his entire career. And my grandma was a teacher as well. And so I grew up witnessing the service that our teachers give back to our future generations of children. So in my DNA from my earliest years, I believe I have a heart for teachers and education. In terms of my professional experience and lessons learned that I bring to the table, I've spent the past decade serving as the Vice President of Communications and Inclusion at Marine Credit Union out of La Crosse. And through that role, I have been committed to advocacy for transparency and communication. And those are the two biggest assets and strengths that I would bring to my role as a school board member.
Great. Thank you very much. Our next question is, what is your vision for education in this community? And I've already gotten things out of order, so I'm going to start with you, Ms. Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. My vision for education in the West Salem community, I mentioned it in my introduction, but I deeply believe that our schools are the heart of our community. And I believe that students are the future, our future leaders, our future period as a society. So my vision is very aligned with our district vision, the current vision of West Salem School District, which is rooted in creativity, innovation, and excellence. We aspire to be an integral community function, providing leadership through our service to students, families, staff, and the community. So I share that vision for our district, and I believe we have top-notch educators who are committed to the future of our students.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes.
So my vision is to make sure that we are giving our children tools that they need to succeed when they actually go out into their careers, making sure that what we're doing with them is what the people need when they come out of school, to make sure that we're there for their support. If they have questions, we're available for them. I think that they currently do a great job with that. And I think that would be what my focus would be on, I guess.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
Yeah, I agree with both what Caitlin and Matt said. In terms of heart of the community, I think, one thing I think of is how the school is a resource for the community and vice versa, and how we can continue to increase that collaboration and, help create strong communities and strong opportunities for students, and best prepare them to kind of excel in their whatever path they choose after graduation and become contributing members of West Salem into the future, and not look toward other communities to relocate to.
Great. Ms. Wilson. I'm sorry.
I started, but
You can go again.
I can add to that. I was getting cut off. You're on mute.
And I'm on mute. Okay, I'm going to start all over again. For our next question, how would you engage the community to improve public schools in the district? And we're going to start with Mr. Knebes.
Could I have that one more time, please?
How will you engage the community to improve public schools in the district?
Would I
As a school board
engage the
member.
community?
Yes.
That's a tough question for me, I guess. I would ask their opinion. I would try to have the school board be a part of the West Salem school, the town of West Salem. If they had questions, it would be nice to have some kind of bridge between the school board and the village board. If we could collaborate on things that were going to be happening so that we could better prepare both the village of West Salem and the school to make sure that we're on the same page if things are going to be coming up.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
Yeah, I believe that I had read on maybe the League of Women Voters commentary commenting about a decrease in journalism covering education issues, but I was pondering that a bit and thinking, while there's a decrease in journalism, there's an increase in information and 24/7 news cycle and increase in opinions and platforms for people to express opinions. So I think one thing to take advantage of that is kind of continue to be transparent and on decisions and why they're made and why we voted for them, justification for why we thought that way, so that they're ensured that the process was sound, even if they might disagree with it. But also, just be available to have discussions similar to what Matt was talking about.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
Over the past couple months, as I have been digging in to learn more in preparation for this race, I have been, to Bob's point, impressed at the volume of information that is out there on exactly what is going on in our district. Now, to be fair, some of it is hard to navigate and get to if you are not doing your digging. But so the first way that I would engage people is to continually over and over again point them to resources using all channels that we have as a district, and personally and as a board, as a team, to point people to the resources we do have. We have public school board meetings every other Monday night. We have community listening sessions. We have forums like this. We have public agendas and meeting minutes. So as much as we can point to resources, and then the number one job that I believe as a board is listening. So in every forum that we have, to listen to what's on the mind of voters.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Next question comes from the audience. Do you support a non-discrimination policy for staff and students that includes sexual orientation and gender identity and expression? We'll start with Mr. Gollnik.
Do you please I just wanted to make sure I had all the details in that question. Can you
Yes. Do you support a non-discrimination policy for staff and students that include sexual orientation, gender identity and expression?
Yes, I guess the short answer is yes. And, to elaborate on that, I think inclusion is kind of one of the foundations of the school district and kind of one of the foundations of society. So, it's something that we need to incorporate and continue to support in ways that make sense.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
I don't believe we should discriminate against anyone. So not being familiar with what, a non-discrimination policy is pretty broad, but I would generally say yes, I would support a non-discrimination policy, whomever that would include.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes.
Yeah, I would support it. I think our job would be as school board members is to make sure that our kids have the information that they need, make sure that they're safe and that they're always being able to be heard.
Great, thank you. Next question is, how can the school board be more accountable to the public on student achievement, school performance, and progress over time? And we'll begin with Ms. Wilson.
How can the school board be more accountable to the public? Well, I think first and foremost, it starts with the opportunity that each and every person has next week on April 2nd to use their greatest power, which is to vote. And so whether that is showing up to support the candidates whose viewpoints you've heard and believe should be there, or whether that is showing up to demand change. I believe that's first and foremost our most powerful form of holding accountability to any elected official. I also believe getting engaged and active in becoming part of solutions or changes is also paramount. So we discussed some of the ways that you can do that. But I believe your vote is the most powerful thing you have to holding the board accountable.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes.
As being part of a school board, I think the accountability would be you should be open to everybody's suggestions. You should be the voice for the community and help translate that through the school.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
Yeah, I think a couple of things, I guess. One is continue to be kind of transparent, as I mentioned before. And I think, as Caitlin mentioned, continue to provide lots of resources on the school website in terms of metrics and state required reporting and kind of the quantitative progress that the students are making and the district is making. But also I echo the power to vote and, continue to be available and continue to field inquiries and, take into consideration if there's points of contention and have discussions on that.
Great, thank you. Next question is, what is the best way to address differences of opinions on the board or between the board and the administration? Could you support a board decision that you did not vote in favor of? And if you could elaborate on that. We'll begin with Mr. Knebes.
Absolutely. You would support, even if you necessarily didn't have the same opinion, if it passed as a board, you would support it. You would still be part of the team. We'd have to be a team player. I mean, there's people on that board. We all can't think the same. Otherwise, we won't be able to change things.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
The thing that pops into my mind when I hear that question, it's a quote that I'll massacre, but it's something along the lines of, if you're not disagreeing or having disagreements, then you're not probably trying hard enough or something of that matter. But like Matt said, I think, it's healthy to have respectfully kind of honor the opinions of others, even if we don't agree with them. And it's kind of the way to find the best path forward on lots of these issues and to, be, like I said, respectful and thoughtful and considerate of disagreements. So.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
I agree with both Bob and Matt. I think that a variety of perspectives is incredibly healthy. It makes us better. I'll go back to Matt's response to the previous question, which is, we are representatives of, or who you elect next week are representatives of the collective interests of the West Salem community. So first and foremost, our role should be not only listening to what the consensus of our community is, but representing what that consensus is. Knowing that in any community, there's an array of viewpoints. But where our community lands is what we as a board should be representing. Could I support a decision as a part of that team that I didn't personally support? I believe that is, yes, what I'm signing up for. To Matt's point, I'd be part of a team as well.
Thank you. Next question. What issues do you believe your district needs to address in its academic program and offerings? What changes would you recommend? We'll start with Mr. Gollnik.
This is one of the things that seem like a large challenge for the district in terms of just in present day, there's kind of more of everything available, more information, more tools, more resources, more opportunities after graduation. And to me, that seems like a moving target in terms of prioritizing academic needs and needs of the district and appropriately arming teachers and staff with the right amount of resources to navigate that. So to me, one of the biggest challenges, and I'm projecting a little bit, but is just kind of staying on top of those trends and whatever the path is after students leave the district, trying to best accommodate and suit the needs of them and best prepare them for post graduation life.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
Our district is strong. Once again, we already started. The West Salem School District is the leader in our region for student outcomes and academic excellence. So we are very much on a great trajectory. I don't have specific education program changes that I would come into this role recommending. I would be focused on continued listening to what the needs are. In general, I believe in something that we try to do in our home as parents is to focus on resiliency, leadership skills, conflict resolution, self-awareness. So I do believe if there are opportunities to lean into those areas to better support the outcomes of our students transitioning into society as contributing citizens, absolutely. But specific programming and education curriculum, I believe we're very strong.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes.
I'm going to have to agree with both Bob and Caitlin. They hit on a lot of points. There isn't any specific issue that I am aware of that needs to be addressed. I think we just need to make sure that we're able to give the kids the right tools to succeed when they do get out of school. It's hard to answer a question like that because we really don't know what they're looking for. We don't know what issues there would be. Just we have to be there. If we're fortunate enough to be on the board, we need to listen and then come up with a solution if there's a certain issue that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. This is another question from an audience member. If you were elected to the school board, how would you address controversial topics in the classroom, including political, racial, sexual identity, and religious topics? We're going to start with Ms. Wilson.
That is a broad array of topics. So how would I address them?
How would you address controversial topics in the classroom? Those were examples that were given.
Yeah, so I understand right now our West Salem School District has a controversial issues policy, and this is something that any of us can look up as school district residents. This is accessible from the school district website, from our policies page. So there is precedence for how we're currently handling this as a district. I do also know it's a topic of open discussion among our community, is making changes to that policy or making additional clarification on what we believe as a school district and community when it comes to belonging and inclusion. So my viewpoint and my beliefs as a potential school board member is I believe everyone should be valued and included and respected. I do believe that there is a line between acceptance and promotion that we need to be cognizant of within our schools.
Great, thank you. Mr. Knebes.
I think Caitlin kind of summed it up. We just need to be sure that we're able to support our kids. We need to make sure that they stay safe and they feel like they can be heard. It is not our job to, in my opinion, to elaborate on anything further. We just need to make sure that they have an avenue to be heard.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
I like being third. I'll echo both of the points that you made. Just a couple of other things. I think part of this would build on the last question and kind of being flexible and open and considering the information available and having some uncomfortable conversations possibly. But I think it's useful to kind of consider differing points of view on issues like this, and being willing to be flexible and respectful of other opinions, and kind of sit down and assess the information and make decisions from there.
Okay, thank you. Next question, how would you determine budget priorities for the district? We'll start with Mr. Knebes.
First, I think we would have to listen to see what our focal point would be, what our budget would be. We would have to better understand where we have room that we can make some adjustments. I don't really know how, depending on what kind of budget cuts there are, that would be the basis of what the decision would have to be talked about the board.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
I think as we've all mentioned, things have generally been going pretty well and successful in terms of academic performance and kind of school district rankings, and there's a positive trend. So I would kind of look at what's been done in the previous years and what the trends are, and kind of consider, what's available moving forward, and kind of use the past as a tool to decide what might need to be changed, but also, as I mentioned before, consider what demands might be coming up, kind of looking forward, and if there's changes that might need to be made. But generally, I would say, defer to staff recommendations and administration recommendations on what's been done in the past, and see if there's room around the margins to make changes for specific things, and if there's big priority issues to discuss, then we discuss those.
Great, thank you. Ms. Wilson.
Staff and administration recommendations, definitely. The other thing that I would add is our last community-wide survey that our district completed was in August 2023, our school perception survey, and participants to that survey included staff, parents, and non-parents, so general community members. And when we administer surveys like this and seek feedback, it's very important to do something with that feedback. So as an example, in that survey, the 4 greatest priorities or challenges that the community highlighted that we need to focus on are: number 1, our traffic congestion around the schools; number 2, meeting the social emotional needs of students; number 3, maintaining competitive staff compensation and benefits; and number 4, aligning courses with the needs of local job markets. So I also believe taking what our community is telling us are our greatest needs need to be factored into our long-term budget plans.
Thank you. Next question. What is your view of the role of charter schools in public education? Start with Mr. Gollnik.
My view, I guess I'm not well enough informed about about charter school availability in West Salem, but I would say the more options and opportunities, the better for our students. And if there are needs that aren't being met, within our public schools, I'm glad that there's, opportunities for other avenues for students.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
I agree with Bob. I agree with having more opportunities, parents being able to choose where they want to educate their children. I believe we have an outstanding public school system. I'm also not familiar with what the financial implications are around charter school choices. So I would definitely need to do more research and listening into this question to be able to give a well-rounded answer.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes.
For the charter schools, it's a good opportunity for kids to have different options. It's better for the parents. I know there isn't a bad school. It's just it's good that they have different options that they could utilize.
Okay, thank you. The next question, what changes, if any, do you believe should be made on the state and local level regarding public education? Start with Ms. Wilson.
I am not advocating for any specific changes at this time.
Mr. Knebes.
I'm going to have to concur with there. I think our district does a great job.
Mr. Gollnik.
I also do not have any recommended changes without knowing more of the details of the operations and kind of procedures at the district. I would say that it's important to continue to advocate at the state and local levels for continued funding levels and place our education as a priority for the, at both state and local levels with our elected officials.
Thank you. Next question, how can a Board of Education best communicate with its constituent groups? I'll start with Mr. Knebes.
To make sure that they have a opportunity to have the resource to talk to us, to make sure that we put ourselves out there and we have that we're approachable.
Mr. Gollnik.
I agree with Matt, and again, reiterate kind of what we talked about before in terms of being transparent and available, and having an opportunity to express and explain to people who might disagree why decisions were made and the process that went behind them, and not have them hear it second or third hand, and just kind of having primary forms of communication with the constituents and being proactive about that rather than reactive or, like I said, hearing from other sources rather than the primary source.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about this topic of how do we communicate with and engage our constituents. I believe we've mentioned this topic, all of us have tonight repeatedly, of listening and providing as many opportunities and forums as we can to listen to as many people in our community as we can. There's a full board of members and that you have elected, and we should afford us many opportunities to hear from what the needs of the communities are, the needs of our teachers, of our parents, of our non-teachers, non-parents. So providing those forums, we have community listening sessions, but also I believe meeting people where they're at. So understanding how do our constituents best like to consume information? Where are they? We also have results on that in our most recent listening survey as well that we can take advantage of.
Wonderful. Next question is, if you were elected, whoops, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong question. What is one thing that we can do to positively impact diversity and inclusion? Mr. Gollnik.
I think one of the earlier issues or earlier questions also touched on this, but I believe that inclusion and diversity are foundations of our kind of our mission at the school. And I don't have specific initiatives or strategies, but I do say having kind of an inclusionary mindset is one way to help promote inclusion and diversity in our district.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
Having led a belonging and inclusion function at the credit union that I serve, the very first thing that we did when we made a focus on inclusion as a credit union was to get as many voices involved in building what that looked like as possible. So not assuming that 4, 5, 6 people should dictate what that looks like for any given culture, and not assuming that what that looks like in one culture or in one school district or one family or community setting is what it looks like in another. So building out what inclusion looks like for the West Salem School District by getting as many people involved in doing that as possible would be where I would start.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes?
I would have to agree again. I think that the biggest thing that we could do is listen, and it's not necessarily my topic of expertise. So I'll listen to the comments that are being brought in, the concerns, and then I'm going to take suggestions from people that are better versed to answer them.
Thank you. Next question. Name your top 3 education priorities that you would accomplish in your time in office, and how would you go about achieving them? We'll start with Ms. Wilson.
I'm going to take a few seconds to think of my time.
Mhm.
My top 3 education priorities. First would be sitting down with our teachers. So I do have time scheduled tomorrow night with the 2 of the leaders of our local teachers union. So continued listening to inform those education priorities, honestly, would be my priority number 1. So I can develop informed number 2 and number 3. At this point, so listening to our teachers, number 1. And then number 2 priority would be continuing to go through the data and feedback from the community that we do already have to outline. And then number 3, I would say, is sitting down with the administration, definitely, and the current board leadership to just really get in depth on what we've been currently focused on. I know some of that, but really just to get more in depth.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes?
I would listen to the staff about goals. I would actually have communication with some of local businesses to see what their expectations are for what they're looking for individuals when they graduate. And then I would come back to the board and we would come up with a constructive way to implement what our findings are.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik?
Yeah, there's a few different things. I'm kind of thinking about kind of continuous evaluation, but I like the idea of, listening to staff and teachers and figuring out what trends they're seeing, if there's things that are falling short, if there's things that are working, how the board can support that with resources. I would also be interested in looking at how some of our peer districts and schools are excelling, and if they're doing things that our district is not, or thinking about ways that we can continue to improve. And then similar to Matt's point, I would kind of continue to survey what students are doing after graduation, and are there areas that they were well prepared or less than well prepared in the workforce or college or military or whatever path they choose, and what are some ways that we can get ahead of those proactively and help to provide some of those to our students.
Great, thank you. Next question. In what school district or community activities or organizations have you been involved? Mr. Knebes?
Currently, I have helped with assistant coach for baseball, football, and basketball. And I have been there for the kids to try to assist with showing them the right way to do things, not necessarily just in this aspect of sports, but how to become a better person, how to help with the respect of others, and what they can do to have so they represent our school district.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik?
Yeah, I've kind of a regular volunteer at events, including National Night Out and some of the Outdoor Recreation Association events in town regarding bicycling, and volunteered at a few other bike events, and thanks. Most of my volunteer work has been kind of event based, and that's kind of been my primary involvement in the community outside of my regular capacity.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
First, I can attest to Matt's effectiveness and impact as a coach, as my son has had him for the past few years. I am also have had so much fun over the past 3-4 years coaching my daughter specifically in softball and t-ball through our Great Park and Rec program. I have also for the past 2 years been a co-advisor to our West Salem High School's Interact group, which is a student version of Rotary International Service Organization. So we have a great group of kids that is impacting our local community and beyond through that group. I have judged our senior exit projects for the past 3 years at the high school level. And finally, our family has been involved as host families for exchange students through Rotary International. Last year, we hosted a student from Thailand who was welcomed with open arms at the high school.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next question. How does education support the economy and quality of life in the community? Mr. Gollnik.
Yeah. In regard to this, I would echo back to what I had mentioned earlier about creating productive members of our community and students that excel in their careers and don't want to relocate to other communities or look for other communities to move to after they've trained and gotten their education here. So just kind of to me, it's a cycle of producing great talent in our community and hoping that talent continues to contribute and excel in their life after their time at the school district and continue to contribute to the community and volunteer and hopefully start businesses in our community, but also just kind of keeping our skill sets here and kind of continuing the cycle of education and economy.
Great, thank you. Ms. Wilson.
Completely agree with Bob. We are educating our future. We are educating our future leaders, parents, families, business owners. Strong education paired with strong families, which our West Salem community has, creates and sustains flourishing economies, and it advances those economies and contributes to a flourishing quality of life. So education, economy, and quality of life, I see as completely intertwined. I believe that by continued focus on as I mentioned earlier, leaning into developing our kids' skills around resiliency, leadership skills, self-awareness, conflict resolution are skills we can continue to equip them with so that they can be contributing leaders in our society and economies.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes.
I think we're actually extremely blessed in this area because we have a lot of very, very good companies that these kids have an opportunity to go to. I think we have those conversations to make sure that we give our children the best opportunity, prepare them for what's actually out there and what they can do. And they don't have to go far to achieve a great lifestyle.
Great, thank you. This will be our last question. What distinguishes you as a candidate for the West Salem School Board? Start with you, Ms. Wilson.
I believe it is my heart to serve, my 2 decades of communication experience, and my long-range perspective as a mother of 2 young children in the district and a servant leadership author that make me a distinguishable asset to serve on our West Salem Board of Education.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes. Mr. Knebes.
What would that look like for me? I have a vested interest in this because I do have young kids that are going to be attending the school, and I feel very strongly that they've done an amazing job, and it's an important part of us as a community to step up and take our turn and to make sure that our kids are looked after, they have the tools to succeed in life.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
Yes, I think what distinguishes me is I have a kind of a diverse background professionally and geographically, and I've got a blend of analytical and kind of soft skills that help to think through issues and approach them with objectivity and thoughtfulness and with an eye toward data-driven solutions. I've worked in both the public and private sector, and I'm familiar, as I said earlier, with how policies are made and how they are evaluated. And as I also mentioned, my interest is striving toward continuous improvement and continuing to think about ways that we can improve an already great school district.
Wonderful. Thank you. So now we're going to turn to our closing statements to end the forum. And like before, each of our candidates will have 2 minutes to provide a closing statement. Feel free to expand on any of your answers, or if there are any topics that you would like to cover that weren't in the questions that we brought up, or any other information that you'd like to share with our audience, please do that. And we're going to begin with Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Catherine. My mission in life is to cultivate a servant heart so I can help reflect what's good in the world. And to have the honor of serving our West Salem School District, which is a shining star and bright spot in our world, would be a great honor. I was born and raised in the La Crosse area. We have had the great benefit of being beneficiaries of the West Salem community's ability to rally when anyone is in need and to be able to pay it forward to care for others like people have cared for us is why I am asking for your vote next week on April 2nd for our School Board of Education in the West Salem District. Thank you to the La Crosse Area League of Women Voters for making this forum available. Thank you to our West Salem engaged citizens for requesting, attending this forum, for listening afterward. And thank you very much to Matt and to Bob for your servant hearts for committing to run as well.
Thank you. Mr. Knebes.
First, thank you for putting this on and helping us be able to reach out to more people. Thanks, Bob and Caitlin, for showing up. I think that if you guys vote for any of us, I think we have a good future ahead of us. I can help with communication, and I listen, and from the answers of all the others, I think you can't go wrong with any of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gollnik.
Yes, I'll thank everyone also, and thank you for taking time. And I agree with what Matt ended with, that all three of us would be great options, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the people that logged in to participate. I would just reiterate my interest is continuing the reputation and of the school district, and looking for ways to apply my skill set to help continue advance the opportunities for the students in the district, and provide resources for the staff, and maximize the opportunity for success in West Salem. Thank you again.
Thank you all. I'd like to thank all of our candidates tonight for making yourselves available this evening, and for your interest in serving for the community with your public service. We'd also like to thank the school superintendent's office and the West Salem PTO for helping us get the word out about tonight's forum. To our audience, we'd like to reaffirm that viewpoints that are expressed are those of the candidates and not of the league. We'd also like to remind everybody, as you've heard all of our candidates say this evening, that Election Day is April 2nd, and early voting is still available through your municipal clerk's office through this Friday, March 29th. for more information about upcoming elections, including where to vote, what's on the ballot, candidate forum, and other election questions. We have a number of websites where you can get information. You can see on this slide here what's coming up, or that slide we were just looking at, what's coming up on each of the ballots for the upcoming elections. April 2nd is the spring general election. There'll be 2 other elections yet this year. And you can see what offices are going to be and what decisions are going to be made in each of those elections. On the next slide, we'll show you some important websites that you might want to check out. The vote411.org is a wonderful place to find out information about individual candidates and their opinions going into the elections. And myvote.wi.gov is the official My Vote Wisconsin site where you can register to vote and find out more information about where you can vote. And then finally, we would invite you to visit the Lacrosse Area League of Women Voters at LWVLacrosse.org. We are celebrating our centennial anniversary this year for our local league. So we invite you to go to our website, learn more about the league, about the efforts that you can join and be involved with for educating and empowering voters. You can also find a recording of tonight's forum. If there are other events that you're interested in participating in, you will find them there. We also have a strong social media platform, and you can learn about things as they come along throughout the year. So lots of opportunities for us to learn more about the elections. We encourage everyone to vote, take a friend to vote, and do share this recording with others who will be voting in the West Salem School District election, so we can get more information out to everyone. Thank you all for attending this evening, and have a good evening.
Thank you.